Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then just welcome, and I'm super happy to have you here. Today I'm out with yet another crochet tutorial, and this time I'm going to teach you how to make this super cute sweater, which is also going to be a very easy one to make, and I will make sure that this tutorial is as beginner friendly as possible. So I'm really going into as much detail as I can with every single stitch and every single step to make sure that everyone is able to follow along. If you have any questions or need any help, then just feel free to reach out in the comment section below. And if you would like to have a written version of this pattern, I have linked it down below and it's available for purchase on my Etsy store. But now, without further ado, let's jump into it. Here are the materials that I will be using. Here I have some 4-ply cotton yarn, and just in case, here are some more specs from this specific brand that I will be using. And here I have a mohair blend and also some more specs from this one. And of course the total amount of yarn needed depends on the size that you are going for, but I will be using approximately 4 skeins of this one and 2 of this one. And of course you would also need a crochet hook. For this project I will be using 3.5mm hook, and you will also need some scissors. But now let's get started. So first, to get started, I will be using this 4-ply cotton yarn, and our first step would be to create a slip knot. And for that I'm just grabbing my yarn like this, then I'm twisting it and pulling a loop through the loop that I already had like this, and then just grabbing my crochet hook, putting this loop on and just adjusting the size so it fits my crochet hook. And then our next step is to basically do some chains, and the amount of chains will also determine the width and size of our panel. So if you're starting to work on the panel for front or back, just make sure that you do enough chains so it fits around your bust from one side to the other. Or if you're working on arm panels, just make sure that amount of chains that you are doing actually can wrap around your arm. But now let's proceed further with doing some chains. So for that you just have to yarn over and then pull the yarn through the loop that you had on our hook like this. So this is one chain, and then just repeat the process for doing this as many times as it's needed. So here I have done all my chains, and now we can proceed further with working on the first row. And throughout the first row we will be actually doing double crochets, and for that, to get started, first we are going to skip 3 chains. So 1, 2 and 3. And then here in this 4th one, this is where we are going to place our first double crochet. So for double crochet you just have to yarn over, then go through the chain, then grab some yarn and pull it through to have 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through the first 2 like this, then yarn over again and pull through the remaining 2 like that. So this is 1 double crochet, and then we are just repeating the same process for all the chains that we have here. So here I have done another one like that. So let's do one more together. So yarning over, going through the chain, then grabbing yarn and pulling it through to have 3 loops on your hook, then yarning over and pulling through 2 like that, yarning over and pulling through remaining 2 like that. So here I have done few double crochets already, and now you just have to continue by going through every single chain that you have and place 1 double crochet inside every single chain until you have reached the very end. So here I am at the end of this first row, and now I'm just placing a double crochet inside this very last chain like this. So now we have done our first row with double crochets, and now we can proceed with the second row. And for the second row we are also going to do double crochets, and to get started with doing that we first have to chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3. And now that that is done, we can turn our work like this and proceed further with this second row. And actually this chain of 3 is going to count as double crochet, and because it counts as double crochet we are skipping this very first stitch because we already have this chain of 3 double crochet in here. And then starting from the second one we are again placing double crochet inside every single stitch that we have here. So here I already have the first one, and then proceeding further with the following stitches like this. So this is how it looks so far. So now basically just go through every single stitch that you have here from the previous row that you did, and just place one double crochet on top of every single double crochet stitch that you have. And then I will meet you at the end of this row where we will be changing materials and proceeding further with the third row where we will be doing a different stitch. So here I am at the end of the second row. So just remember that you also have to place a stitch here in this third chain from the previous row. So I'm just going through there and doing my double crochet, and I'm actually finishing it only halfway through because we are going to change the material. So only finish the first yarn over that you have and leave it at 2 loops on your hook, and then grab the material that you're going to attach. So in this case I'm attaching this mohair blend, and for doing that I basically just grab this yarn that I have and just tie it around this cotton thread that we were just using. So I'm just tying it around in a secure knot like this, and then I'm just pushing this knot closer to the hook, or basically right next to this stitch that I was just working on like this. So now this mohair blend is attached, and we can basically cut off this cotton yarn that we have. So I'm just cutting it off, and from now on we are going to use, or for now we are going to use this mohair blend. So here we have our 2 loops on our hook, so we still have to finish this double crochet, and we are going to do that by using this yarn. So I'm grabbing my new material and just pushing it or pulling it through the stitch like this. So now this second row is finalized, and we have also changed our material. And now we can proceed with this third row, and for the third row we are going to do a very long stitch, meaning that we will have a lot of yarn overs. And to get started we first just have to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 like this. So this is also going to count as our first stitch, and then we can turn our work to actually proceed with this third row. And because this chain of 6 is counting as a stitch, we are also skipping this first stitch that we have here in the beginning, and then we can proceed further with stitches for this row. And basically for this row we will be doing kind of like a treble crochet, because we are going to yarn over 4 times. So let's proceed with this first stitch. So first we are yarning over 4 times, so 1, 2, 3 and 4 like this. Then we are going through this next stitch that we have, grabbing yarn and pulling it up to have 5 loops on our hook, and then just yarning over and pulling through 2, yarning over, pulling through the next 2, then also for the third time, 4th time, and then the final 5th time like this. So this is our 1 stitch. I'm not sure if the name is correct, but I will call it treble crochet. And now let's do another one. So yarning over 4 times like this, then going through this next stitch that we have, grabbing yarn and pulling it through to have 5 loops on our hook, then yarning over and pulling through pairs of 2. In total we have to do that for 5 times like this. So here we have placed another stitch, and then we just basically have to repeat this process by going through every single stitch that we have and adding one of these treble crochets inside every single stitch like this. So here I have a few, so just continue doing this until you reach the end of the row. And now here I am at the end of this third row. So now we also just have to remember to place a stitch here in the very last third chain of this 3 chains that we had in the very beginning. So again, I'm just placing a stitch in here and completing this stitch until we have 2 loops on our hook. And this is because we are again going to switch material, and we are switching back to this 4-ply cotton that we used just before. So again, in the same way, we are just tying this yarn around our existing one and then pushing this knot closer to the hook like this, and just double checking that it's secure like that. And then we can again cut off this yarn, and now we can complete this stitch by using our 4-ply cotton. So I'm just completing it like that. So now this third row is finalized, and if you check, you can see that it seems to be a little bit loose, but this is nothing that you have to worry about because it's going to be fixed just with this row that we are going to do now. And now we can proceed further with the 4th row, and to do that we first have to chain 1 like this, then we are turning our work, and during this 4th row we are going to do single crochets. And in this case, this chain of 1 is not counting as a stitch, so you don't have to worry about this one. And starting from this very first one, this is where we are going to place our first single crochet. To do a single crochet, you just have to go through the stitch right away, then grab yarn and pull it through to have 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through both loops like this. So this is 1 single crochet, and you basically just have to place 1 inside every single stitch that you have. So this is already 2, and then the next one. So let's do 1 more together. So just going through the stitch, grabbing yarn, pulling it through to have 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through both of them like this. So basically just place 1 single crochet inside every single stitch, and then again I will meet you at the end of this row where we are going to change back our materials and proceed further with the next row. And as you can see, as we are adding these single crochet stitches, they are also tightening our previous row, and it doesn't appear as loose as it did before. And so here I am at the end of this 4th row, so also going through this last chain that I have here like this, and leaving this stitch halfway through, so not completing this single crochet. And now we are again changing back material to this mohair blend, so exactly in the same way as before. And now again we are just completing the stitch like this, and then for the 5th row we are actually going to do the same thing as we did for the 3rd row. So we are going to do these treble crochets, and just to remind you, we are first starting with chaining 6, so 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Then we are turning this our work, and because this chain of 6 counts as a stitch, we are actually skipping the first stitch that we have, and starting from the next one we are placing our first treble crochet in there. And for that we first have to yarn over 4 times, and then we are just yarning over and pulling through pairs of 2 like this. So this is 1 stitch, and then we are just repeating the same process inside every single stitch throughout this row until we reach the very end. So just continue doing that, and I'm going to meet you at the end of this row. And so here I have completed this 5th row, and this is basically it, and this is how it looks. So now what we would have to do is change back our materials to this 4-ply cotton, and from now on we would basically just have to keep on repeating this sequence, so repeating rows 1 to 5, and we would just have to do that for as many times as we wish, just to add length to this panel. It's totally up to you how long you want your panels to be, but it also depends on the size and look that you are going for. But I would also advise you to end it in the same way as you started. So here, as you can see, I started it with 2 rows of double crochets, so I'm also going to end it in the same way with 2 rows of double crochets, because later on it will help us to connect these panels together, and it would also give us a smoother look. But otherwise you're more than welcome to mix and match and play around with different types of stitches. And in total you would have to make 4 panels, so 1 for front and 1 for back, which would be in the same size, and then 2 panels for arms, so 1 for each arm, and both of them would also have to be in exactly the same size. And then once you have finished the last row of your panel and you have completed the last stitch, we can actually fasten off. And for that, you just have to chain one like this, then make this loop a little bit longer, then grab your scissors and cut off yarn. And as it's cut off, you can just tighten it by pulling this loose end here. So now you have fastened off and completed your panel. And so here I have prepared all 4 panels. I have 2 for the sleeves and 2 for the body. So now we can actually proceed further with connecting these panels together. And for that, I normally just like to lay them all out on the floor so it's easier to understand what goes where. And also for the purposes of this video, so it's easier for me to show you how it all looks and which parts should be connected together. And so here I'm just showing the connection parts, and first I would be starting with connecting the shoulder parts. So we just have to make sure that we are connecting equal amount of stitches on both sides, and also we have to make sure that we are leaving enough space for the neck part. After that, I would proceed with connecting the arm panels to the sides of the body panels, and here we just have to make sure that we are connecting them exactly in the middle. And I would advise to leave in some stitch markers to help keep track of how many stitches need to be connected on each side and where exactly would be the middle point, for example, when connecting arm panels to the sides of the body panels. And then once that's done, we can proceed further with connecting the remaining parts, and for that you would basically just have to flip or fold your work with the right side facing inwards, and then we would just have to proceed with connecting bottom parts of the arm panels as well as sides of the body panels, and that of course would have to be done on both sides. And so for connecting panels together, I will be using this 4-ply cotton yarn because that is the most dominating one for me. And first I'm starting here with the shoulder part, and you can use whatever method you prefer for connecting panels together, but in this video I will be teaching you how to do slip stitches and connect panels with them. So first our step is to grab our yarn, and then we are going to start from this point and moving here where we have stitch markers. And first what we have to do is basically attach this yarn, and we have to do it here in the very corner from both of these panels. So here I'm just going through this very first stitch that I have here on one panel, and also going through the same stitch in the corner on the other panel like this. And then I'm just grabbing yarn and pulling it through like this, and once it's through we are just tightening it in a secure knot like this. So now this yarn is attached and we can proceed further with doing slip stitches. And first we just have to go through this place or stitch where we just attached our yarn with our crochet hook. So I'm just going through and then grabbing yarn and pulling it through to have a loop on our hook. And then we are just chaining one because this will help us to get started. And after that we can proceed with slip stitches. So basically what we have to do is just go through the stitch on one panel, then go through the same stitch also on the other panel like this. Then we are just grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then also pulling it through the loop on our hook like this. So this is one slip stitch, so let's do another one. So going through this stitch on one panel, going through the same stitch on the other panel, grabbing yarn and pulling it through, and then pulling it through the loop on our hook like this. So this is the whole process, and you basically just have to keep on doing these slip stitches through stitches on both panels until you have connected this part together and you have reached your stitch markers. So just continue doing that until you reach the markers where you place them, and then I will meet you back again once we are able to fasten off. And so here I have already done a few slip stitches, and this is how it looks. And if I turn it on the right side, you can see that we have established smooth and neat connection between both panels. And so now I have reached stitch markers, so here I'm just doing one last slip stitch by going through the stitches where I have my stitch markers in and completing a slip stitch in here like this, and now we can fasten off. So in the same way we are just chaining one, then making this loop a little bit longer, then grabbing our scissors and cutting off yarn, and as it's cut off we can just tighten it by pulling this loose end to make it secure like this. So now this shoulder part is connected and it looks like this, and on the right side it would look like this, so super smooth and neat. And now you basically just have to do the same thing also for the other shoulder part. So start from here and go up to your stitch markers until this part is connected. Here I have connected both shoulders and this is how it looks. So now we can actually proceed further with connecting our arm panel to the sides of these body panels. And here I have already started working on this one arm. So when connecting this part together with the body parts, we just have to be a little bit more strategic in terms of how we are distributing our stitches, just because we are connecting stitches to rows. So it's not the same as it was for the shoulder parts. But if it helps, I would advise to actually place multiple stitch markers to help you keep track of how much you have already connected and how much is left. And otherwise the process is basically the same. Here I have already started working on some slip stitches, so connecting stitches to rows and spreading them out as evenly as I can. And if I check it on the other side, you can see that we are again getting this smooth connection between these panels. So this is the part that is connected and it looks quite nice. Otherwise, you can do just exactly the same as it was for the shoulder parts and just keep on doing that until you reach the very end where you are here. But let's just do a couple together. So here I'm going through a stitch on this side and then going through kind of like a side of this row here from the other panel, and just performing a slip stitch in exactly the same way as we would do if it was just stitches to stitches. And here I'm kind of just trying to go through the side of this very long stitch that we have and also placing slip stitches in there. But as I said, just continue doing this until you reach the end, and then do the same also for the other side, for the other arm panel. And this is how it looks once all of these panels are connected together. So now the remaining part is to just connect the sides of the body and bottom part of the arms. And the process for that would be the same, but perhaps in this case a little bit easier, because now we would be connecting rows to rows and it would always be exactly the same type of row that we would be connecting together. So in the same way as before, you just have to use slip stitches to connect these sides together, and just make sure that you are connecting the corresponding row with each other. And here I have already started connecting this side, so this is how it looks from the inside. And if I turn it on the other side, you can see that also in this way we are establishing this smooth connection. So just continue with doing slip stitches here all the way till this part where the arm panel ends or your armpit is, and then proceed further with the bottom, then fasten off and do exactly the same thing for the other side. And then we are done with connecting all of these parts together. And then once everything is connected, the very last step would be to weave in all of these loose ends that we have. And for that I'm normally just using my crochet hook, but you can also use a darning needle or whatever you prefer the most. And so with your top being turned with the right side inside, we are just facing all of these loose ends, and basically I'm just using my hook and going through the stitches in the back that I have here and just grabbing these loose ends and pulling them through the stitches in the back. So in this way I'm just making sure that they are not hanging and they're kind of hidden, and also that our top will look pretty from the inside. So just go and do that with all the loose ends that you have until you have weaved all of them in. And here is the finalized top, and this is how it looks on me. I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think it looks really dreamy, and even though it's a sweater, I feel like it's also appropriate for summer because it has this mesh pattern. So that was it from me today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this tutorial is going to be useful for you in case you are planning to recreate this top. And if you do manage to recreate it, then please feel free to share your creations with me either down below or on Instagram or anywhere else. I would be super happy to see them. And if you did enjoy this video, then please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're new here, then please subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye!